Hey there and welcome. Today, we are going to give your JavaScript a serious power-up. You know, if you've ever found yourself wanting to write code that's cleaner, way more readable, and just more efficient, well, you are in exactly the right place. Let's dive in.
Okay, just look at this. On the left, you've got the old way. It's repetitive, a little clunky, right? Pulling data from an object one line at a time. And on the right, that's the new way. It's clean, it's concise, and it's all thanks to a feature called destructuring. This is the kind of difference we're talking about. And trust me, by the end of this, you'll be coding like you see on the right.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll get the core concept down. What is this shortcut? Then we'll really master how to unpack both objects and arrays. And finally, we're going to put it all together to see how this works with functions and JSON data like a total pro.
All right, so what is this magic, really? What's letting us write code that's just so much cleaner? Let's pull back the curtain and get to the core of it.
So officially, it's a syntax for unpacking values. But honestly, the best way to think about it is like a packed suitcase. When you get to your hotel, you don't just dump the entire thing on the floor, right? No, you reach in and pull out just the specific things you need, your toothbrush, your charger. Destructuring lets you do exactly that with your data. You grab only what you need and leave the rest nice and tight. Okay, time for our first power-up, unpacking JavaScript objects. This is probably where you're going to use destructuring the most. It is incredibly powerful. Let's say we've got this person object with a name and an age. To pull those values out, we use this syntax right here. See those curly braces on the left? That's our signal to JavaScript that we're destructuring an object. We just give it variable names that match the property keys, name and age, and bam! JavaScript automatically finds those properties in the object and assigns their values to our new variables.
But what if you need to use a different variable name? Or what if a property you're looking for might not even exist? Well, destructuring has a couple of special moves for that.
This little snippet shows both moves in action. First, see the colon? We're taking the name property but renaming it into a new variable called firstName. This is perfect for avoiding any naming conflicts in your code. Second, we're setting a default value for country. If our person object doesn't have a country property, our new variable will get USA by default instead of just being undefined. Super useful. Ready to level up? You can even destructure nested objects. I mean, look at this. Instead of having to write user.profile.email, we can just dive right into that nested profile object and pull out the email in one clean, elegant line. This is an absolute game changer when you're working with complex data, like something you get back from an API.
Okay, let's grab our second power-up and see how this works for arrays. Now, with objects, it was all about the property names, right? With arrays, it's all about position. This time, we use square brackets. And since it's about position, the first variable, first, gets the first element, which is 1. Now check this out. See that empty space after the first comma? That tells JavaScript, hey, skip the second element, so third gets assigned the value 3. It's all about the order.
Now here's something that is a real game changer, the rest pattern. Those 3 little dots, they collect all the remaining elements into a brand new array. So if our numbers array is 1, 2, 3, 4, head gets the number 1, and tail becomes a totally new array containing 2, 3, 4. This is so incredibly useful for splitting up arrays.
All right, pop quiz. Here's a classic coding interview question that really stumps a lot of people. How would you swap the values of 2 variables without creating a temporary third variable to hold one of the values? The answer is a beautiful little trick. And there it is, the magic trick. It's so cool. On the right side, we're creating a new temporary array with the variables in reverse order, B, A. Then on the left side, we use array destructuring to immediately unpack those values right back into our original A and B variables. One line, no temp variable, just pure elegance. All right, it is time for the combo move. Let's put these new powers to work in 2 of the most common places you'll see them, inside functions and when you're handling JSON data.
This is one of my favorite uses. You can destructure an object directly in a function's parameter list. So instead of passing in a whole user object and then having to write user.name and user.age inside the function, you just pull out name and age right there in the definition. It makes the function self-documenting. You know exactly what it needs just by looking at the first line.
Now, let's talk about JSON. It is the language of APIs. To send data across the internet, we use JSON.stringify to turn our object into a simple string. Then, on the other end, to use that data, we use JSON.parse to turn that string back into a living, breathing JavaScript object we can actually work with. It's a classic two-step dance.
But there's a catch, a common little trap. JSON is pretty simple, which means it doesn't really have a concept of complex things like JavaScript's date objects. So when you stringify an object that has a date in it, that date just becomes a plain old string. And when you parse it back, it stays a string. It loses all its special date powers.
But JSON.parse has a hidden superpower. It's an optional second argument called a reviver. And this little function is our solution. It basically runs for every single key value pair while the JSON is being parsed, and it lets us intercept and transform values on the fly.
Let's break that down real quick. The reviver is just a function that JSON.parse calls over and over for every key value pair it finds. Inside our function, it's just a simple if statement. We ask, is the key for this piece of data named date? If it is, great, we'll create a new date object from its value. If it's not, we just return the value as is, no changes. It's like having a surgical tool to fix your data as it comes in.
Okay, we have covered a lot of ground here. You've seen the theory, you've seen the examples, and now it is your turn to make all this stuff stick. I'm going to throw a few challenges your way, because the best way to learn to code is, well, to actually code. So, you ready for your mission? Here it is. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, go ahead and pause right here, open up your favorite code editor, and actually try these out. I promise this is the single best way to lock in everything we just talked about.
Awesome work. You have officially unlocked a new power in your JavaScript toolkit. Your code is about to get so much cleaner and more expressive. So, what's next? Well, in our next explainer, we are going to dive into asynchronous JavaScript. We're going to tame time itself with callbacks, promises, and async await. I'll see you then.